Guys, welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time on this channel, guys, welcome. I'm glad to see that you're here. All of my friends are here, and guys, you know what we do here. We are rebuild, repair, and refinish. So today we're about to work on a Zx10R race bike. So we're about to get ready to refinish this bike into another color so he can get ready for his new race season. So guys, let's get to it. So here are all the parts. Previously someone was working on it, so now I've inherited the bike, which you can see there's some deep sand, some deep scratches here, and here. So all the pieces here, I think it was a total of five pieces if I'm not mistaken. And also we got some dog food here, and a generator, but we're not worried about that either. But so guys, let's go ahead and let's get all of this stuff out of the car and let's get it set up on a table so we can be able to work on it. And I'm gonna go step by step on how to repair and refinish this bike. The panel sitting here on the table where it's easy to look at. It's not enough room, of course, so I'm gonna have to get rid of some of these parts off of the table before we start working on it. But the most important thing that we need to do on these panels right now is let's go ahead and get them clean, washed off, so then we know what we're working with. And then we're gonna work on each panel at a time, because you wanna make sure that you get everything that you can just looking at a panel at a time, because if I'm trying to work with all of these panels up here, you're definitely going to miss something. So guys, let's go ahead and let's start washing these parts off, and then we're going to break it down and we're going to do one panel at a time and repair each panel and get it ready for paint. So we're definitely going to go with a primer on this thing because there's a lot of scratches and things on here that needs to be filled and fixed. So guys, like always, let's get to work. So guys, just a little note: when you're getting ready to prep any panels and stuff and getting ready to wash, make sure you wash it. And also use Dawn, Joy, whatever kind of dishwashing liquid that you can find, because it actually has a degreaser in it as well. So when you're sanding parts, of course they're gonna have grease on them, and you don't wanna get that into your paint when you're sanding. So that's why we're using this. So guys, let's go ahead and let's get these panels washed. So now that I got everything cleaned off, now we can actually see some of the damage here. There's chipping paint here. That would look like there was a sticker here. So we got to remove the glue here. And like there was another sticker here, but looked like they end up scraping it off. But if you can see that there is a lot of paint buildup. You see when they put this on, it twisted the paint from the old. So we need to get this sanded down too as well. The way I like to operate is I like to do the biggest to the smallest. So the biggest item on here would probably be this tail. Then we hit it with the tank and then move on to the smaller pieces. So let's go ahead and get this table cleaned off, and then let's start with the smallest piece. And then I'm gonna go over the steps of what sand grit paper you need to start with to go ahead and get this thing done. And also, this is fiberglass. We're not working with plastic, so all of these pieces are fiberglass, so it actually makes it a little bit easier, and the prep is a little easier than what it would be on plastic. Plastic, you have to use an extra step on prepping it for the paint to adhere to the plastic. So let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and get some of these pieces moved off. All right, so since I am planning on priming these pieces, most of the pieces at least, like this scratch here, or these chipped off pieces, I'm gonna hit it with some 180. I'm really not concerned about the deeper sand scratches because the primer will fill these areas. But if I'm just gonna concentrate on this area right here, I'm just gonna hit this part with 180. And then since the rest of the tail is pretty good, I can go ahead and hit this with 320, or maybe hit it with 320 and then hit it with a 600. Old paint is a good primer, so if I can get away with not priming the whole thing, maybe just fading this in and hitting this with some 600, and then priming this and sanding this, and then paint the whole thing we can also do that. So there's a lot of different options that you can do. But for right now, I'm just gonna go ahead and hit these places with a 180. But I'm just gonna focus on this tail section right now, and then we're gonna move on to the tank. Over all the troubled areas on this tail section, and you see how the paint and the actual fiberglass has faded. That's what you want. That's how much you want to sand off. If you've seen it before, you see all the pitting from the chips and stuff from the paint. So now we got this faded in nice. We got this one faded in nice. And here, so this is the only places that I'm going to focus on putting the primer down on. That was the only bad areas on here. So the rest of this tail section, I'm about to get ready to sand it with 320, and then once we lay down the primer, we'll wet sand the whole thing again with 600 to 800, and then it'll be ready for paint. All right, guys, so pretty much this is what you want right here with sanding it with the 320. Yeah, it's a little dusty, so guys, this is pretty much the process all the way up until this point before we get ready to primer this thing. So without going through all the pieces, all of these are going to be the same process. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand all of these pieces, and then we'll come back and we'll get ready. I'll make sure that you know about the whole priming process. So when we get ready to prime it, and of course, you know, all of these pieces, again, it's important to keep a clean work environment free of oil. So we also have to wash all of these parts again, dry them, tack them off before we get ready to do primer. So I'll make sure I go over that process with you guys. I don't really know what it is. I don't know. It's super hot out here, and I think it's just, this is not the same weather that I played in when I was a kid. It just seems like it's so hot out here right now, where it's just so stifling hot. But guys, you know what? This ain't gonna stop us. We're gonna keep pushing forward. We need to get this bike done, and hopefully, guys, update on the R1. Hopefully that it'll be done today too as well, so we can get it back and start ripping all the fairings off and changing out the frame. So guys, we got a lot of work to do, and I've got some content to send to you. So I want y'all guys to have a nice looking bike and y'all riding clean. So if you do this process, you can make your bike look good too. So guys, always try something new. Don't be afraid, try something new. So guys, y'all already know the deal. Let's get to work. So here go all of the pieces. They are finally done, sanded. It really wasn't that big of a challenge. It's just a lot of little nicks and crannies that we need. So what you're trying to achieve is this ashy look, to where you don't see any shiny. Now, I do have a little shiny areas here and around on this panel here and here. And that's because it's so hard to get the sandpaper in. So I'm gonna show you something that you need to use to achieve getting these little tight areas. I recommend using a fine scuff sanding sponge. So it's actually 400 grit, and this will be perfect to fit in all of those tight areas that where you can't really get a sandpaper in, and you make sure that you scuff it up really good. So guys, now after this point, after I scuff that up, it's time to wash it, and then we'll be ready to primer it. You guys, so at this point we would be ready to wash these panels and get them ready to paint, to put on primer, but I just realized that I'm out of primer, so now I need to head down to the paint store to grab some more paint. So once we get the primer, we'll come back, we will then wash these parts and then primer. So guys, I'll see you at the paint store. 48.45 for primer and the primer hardener. Always get urethane. Urethane primer is the best. Damn good. That in there. All right. Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, guys, we are back. with all our paint materials that we needed. And so now, as we discussed before we left, now we're about to get ready to go ahead and let's wash this thing and get it clean so we can get ready to primer it. Alright guys, so now all of these parts have been washed and they're clean. I've also did a little bit of wax and grease remover. Make sure you always use wax and grease remover when you're doing anything on any kind of parts that you're getting ready to spray. So guys, come down here, let me show you. We're going to use this Nason primer, urethane primer. The reason I'm using urethane primer is because it's very thick. So this particular mix 4-to-1. So you're going to use 4 parts this, 4 parts hardener. And here it already labels it on here. So if I'm going to go to the line number 2, so I'm going to use 4 parts of the primer and I'm going to use 1 part of the hardener. So guys, y'all already know the deal. Let's get to work. Alright guys, just like that, these parts are finally finished. Finally got the primer on and they look great. Alright, so guys, if you haven't done so already, hit me on Instagram where you can find me. I'm going to put the link to my Instagram right here below. It will also be in the description below. So guys, you already know the deal. Tomorrow we're coming back in and we're going to wet sand these parts and we're going to get them all nice and smooth so we can get ready to spray the base coat and the clear coat. Super excited to see what this bike is going to turn out and look after it's done. So guys, hang with me and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right.